Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? I make a motion that we close nominations.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those in favor of Matt Giglietti?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Sandy Stein for vice chairman.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll make a motion that we close nominations, and with that, second? All those in favor?
Aye.
And all those in favor of Sandra Stein for vice chairman?
Aye.
Okay. That was good. Thank you. Administrative officer, Mr. G.
Okay. The first I'd like to do is go through the year-end financial results for you. These are preliminary. We're still doing some year-end entries, but this is a pretty good idea of where we will be for the end of the year. Fund balances should be a little over $4.5 million, which would be about 9.85% of the budget for this year. So we're just a little under 10%, which is within our range of where our fund balance should be. The result of the year is an actual cash shortfall of about $340,000. As you recall, however, we designate $400,000 from fund balance. So that means that we are actually within the budgeted amount that we had decided that, in the budget process. So I just wanted to note that. We have surplus in taxes this year, under $100,000. Surplus in intergovernmental revenue of just shy of $122,000. That's mainly due to town road aid. The department revenues have a shortfall of $791, of which primarily related to golf, which was $788,000 shortfall, primarily because we stopped operations halfway through the year and went to having Billy Casper assume the liabilities and the revenues and expenses. So if you look on the other side of the ledger, you'll see take the 788 and the surplus of 323. You can see that the golf operations as whole were still a loss of over 400,000. So just wanted you to see that it still was a loss. It's just they're split between revenue and expense. Other expenditure items is waste management, surplus of 77,000. The Woodbridge Board of Education is reporting a surplus of almost $49,000 in its report. And those are our big items. Human Services has a surplus of about $16,000, primarily due to savings in part-time salary accounts. If you look at the spreadsheet that is attached, you can see how the revenues were under budget by $583,000, and this shows sort of nicely how each department did. And expenditures were over budget by $541. So you can see that the excess of revenues over expenditures for the year for operating was about even. So where we had deficit in revenues was made up in expenses. And then there's the other financing sources, which is primarily the fund balance and the transfers in that's from private duty. That's where that's from. We had a surplus there. So your result is your 343 in total. Okay.
Could you comment about where the Country Club of Woodbridge is in our current year budget then?
So in the current year budget, it's a fixed fee to Billy Casper Golf for $195, I believe it is. So there are no revenues in the revenue side of the budget, and there's an expense of $195, and that's it. So in the event that's for the golf operations. In the event that they have a surplus this year and we're able to benefit from that, there is no revenue in the budget for that, so it would be whatever we get would be additional funds. Yeah.
Okay.
And
So we'll be finding out, because I understand they had a pretty good year.
they did. Yeah, they're
So we might be
reporting,
getting some
we
money.
might be, and they're reporting next week to the Country Club Commission, actually, so
Really
we'll find
good.
out after that. We're hopeful that we will.
All right. And how did the rec department do with the pool?
The pool did not collect the revenues that they thought they would collect, but also didn't have the expenditures on the whole, the pool was just about even, maybe a little more ahead of the game. I mean, they made a little more than they took in, a little more than they expended, but it wasn't quite the surplus that was anticipated
Okay.
in the operation.
So there needs to be a little more
So there needs to be
marketing
more,
for that.
yeah, and part of that was due to the fact that it was a late start and some other issues. So
Okay.
So if there is a surplus with the golf, which year does that get credited?
we'll credit it into the current year budget
Yeah, 'cause we'll probably get it this year.
because we'll probably get it in the next couple months.
Keep your fingers crossed. That'll be
Yeah.
nice to
Yeah.
report that.
That would be great.
Right.
Well, it's weather, you know.
Sure.
That's the
Right.
problem with country clubs and golf courses, you know, it's all
Mm-hmm.
weather related.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions for Tony on that? Status of the 14 audit, Tony?
I'm finishing up year-end entries. Hopefully close the books next, probably mid next week to the end of next week, and the auditors will be out in 2 weeks. Not the week after, but the beginning of October.
Okay.
And we're anticipating a smooth audit this year. There's no issues to be concerned about.
And the proposed budget schedule is in front of us. Do we need a motion on this, or? Not really, right? It's just,
It's just an
It's an
FYI in
FYI.
case there's any issues.
so again, the important meetings are,
There are any extra copies of that?
the schedule.
Oh, wait. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you, Karen.
December 2nd and 4th, and then.
Yeah.
Okay.
December 2nd and 4th, and then January 22nd, 27th, 29th, and February 3rd, if needed,
you know,
right?
it won't be. Okay, well, it's typical. And the
The public hearing is.
public hearing is April 27th, and the town meeting is May 18th. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is that the same as this year where it was during the break, so we pushed it back a week or something?
Yeah, there was something with the April, the school, the
Yeah.
April vacation for schools, so.
Just say,
Okay, and the, we have before us the Woodridge Board of Eds, which I'm sure Sandy will talk about. Okay, anything else, Tom?
yes, I have an other, which is, we have went out to bid for a fire truck, and I handed this out to
That's
you.
this little,
And basically, the selectmen approved the winning bid to Rosenbauer, which is the company that is going to be manufacturing the truck. And so we have to lease the truck, as we usually do,
or purchase it.
or purchase it if we have the cash,
Right, which we don't.
which we don't, right? So, and then what basically the way the leases are structured is that in the lease is a non-appropriations of funds clause, and so every year you would appropriate funding in the budget for the lease payment, and if the payment is not approved, then the company takes the truck, and you had use of the truck, and so that's how it's typically done with a lease over a multi-year period. So you're not really approving a funding over a multi-year period. It's just each 1 year at a time, right? And so the first, there's a prepayment credit if you pay for the chassis when it's complete. That's the $12,000. It's like a little under $12,000. And then there's a trade-in of $32,000. So the chassis is $310,000. So if we were to pay for that in cash, we would need $200,000 to pay for the chassis, which I don't think is a possibility. But I wanted to throw that out there as an option. I also, as it's structured, you see the financed amount, the annual lease payment,
and then the total payment for the truck and the total interest paid. So you can sort of compare. The second option is to prepay the chassis.
Can I ask a question?
Sure,
Sorry.
absolutely.
So this is over a 5-year period.
Correct.
So the interest that we pay is about 30,000.
Correct,
So
over that
it's,
5-year period.
6,000 a year.
Correct.
Let's say.
Yep.
Now, do we own the truck at the end?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a capital lease, so at the end of the term, we own the truck.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. The second option is to enter into a lease now, and then we would lock in the rates now, and we would begin the process. So the first payment would be due in a year, and we would pay for the chassis as it comes in. And so the lease payment, $158,000. You'll see that in option 2. We have $100,000 in the budget this year. So next year, we would just need to put in $58,000, and then you'd have the first lease payment. That's an option number 2. So that's it sort of impacts next year's budget. You'd only have a $58,000 payment in next year's budget.
Okay.
Option 3 is to put $100,000 down on the truck, and then go through the lease process, and that would be a lease payment of $137,000. That would lower next year's. That would make a payment of next year of $137,000 in the budget. You can see the payments and the interest. And then finally, you could just lease the entire truck at the end of the when it's complete, which is about a year. So those are sort of the 4 options.
And how would the 100,000 impact number 4, Tim?
We would use that for the first year in the budget. So
Okay, so we could skip a year of budget impact.
right, you would have 60. You would in
Yeah,
fiscal-
61.
Yeah, instead of 161.
Right.
Or you could put in 161, use it for something else.
Yeah.
You know, you'd have flexibility with that $100,000.
Yeah.
But under that one, you pay the most and there's the most interest. But it's out in the several years. You also I'm not sure where the rates will go. I don't anticipate them really going much higher. But we do take a risk on that if we wait for a year on where the rates will go.
So I think 1 is out.
Right.
So 2 is a possibility.
I would say 2 or 4. Probably.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2 or 4.
Yeah. So we can either lease it now.
So let's look at 2 or 4. So 2 or 4. Obviously, the payments are $793 as opposed to $805, so that's not a big difference. Interest is 51 as opposed to 52, so that's not a difference.
Right.
And we get to basically buy a year
Right.
of impact, so to
Right.
speak. So
So then they would go ahead with the process,
yeah,
and then when the truck is complete at the end, we would then lease the.
and this is like 300 days, I heard, to
Yeah,
complete
it's
the
a little
truck.
over. So it's probably a little over here.
So we don't lock into the rate.
Right.
That's the
until
difference.
truck
That's probably
is
the biggest
complete.
difference.
So
That's
that's
the
the biggest difference.
Yeah.
So we don't know what would happen with that.
Right. That's the biggest difference.
And this is a rate,
It's a tax exempt lease rate,
okay,
and we go to different. Based on what we want to do here, then I'll price it with different. If we decide to do it now, 3 or 4. There's 3, 4 different options. Well, basically the same. Different, banks and
so
financing.
the rates aren't going to vary a whole lot.
Probably not. No, I doubt it.
They move very. I kind of
And what might if we were to do this right now, Tony, do you know what the rates are?
Yeah, it's well, the one I have here is 2 1/4, so that'd be a little over 2% for a 5-year in arrears.
I kind of like 4. My opinion.
Okay.
Mainly because it'll push it off as far as budget impact. But 2 or 4, I'd say. So this has been approved by the Board of Selectmen. We just need to decide how we want to.
Financed it, right?
Right, so that they can get going with it.
Correct. then they'll finalize the paperwork, and once they do that, then they'll proceed.
So let's look at the difference. 2 and 4. So it's $857 in payments.
$8,000 more.
Yeah.
that we pay.
Basically, it's a little more in interest, and you're paying for, I used the same rate, I didn't assume the rates would change.
Yeah.
And then you lose the credit, the
Yeah.
prepayment credit on the,
Right.
buying the chassis.
Which is where the payment difference comes in.
Right.
Right. Right.
And how do we get the chassis credit?
So in other words, you get a credit of a little under $12,000 if, when the chassis is complete, we pay for the chassis
Right at that point.
at that point in time, right?
With the
No.
lease.
Pardon?
With the lease.
We could do it, yeah, with the lease. The lease will then
That's-
fund part of it.
Got it.
Because,
No, I don't think it's a huge, what do you think?
it's not a big deal either way.
If you had to choose, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I would do either 2 or 4.
Yeah.
I don't,
I lean towards 2, so, I mean, I know it's a savings of 8,000.
Yeah.
Right, but we have to fund $58,600
Right,
that we
next year's
don't.
budget.
In next year's budget.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So, because say it's assume it's complete, and if you do that one, you're locking in say 2 weeks. So then a year from this
Right.
October 1st, let's say,
Right.
the first lease payment will be due. And that would be 158. So
Okay.
we have 100 in the budget already, so we put 58 in, and that would be in next year's budget.
Next year's budget.
Right.
okay.
And if the interest rates go down, can we get the benefit of that?
Don't know. I didn't ask that question. I doubt it, because the lease is going to be locked in
Yeah.
as of in 2
With number
weeks.
2 you're talking, with number
Yeah,
4,
yeah.
we would.
Number 4 you would, yeah.
Right.
I don't think they're gonna go
I
down,
don't
but
think they're gonna go down either.
not the way they're talking, so. All right.
So you don't have a recommendation one way or the other? I mean, what would you
I think it's
prefer?
gonna be a difficult budget year next year, and,
As long as everyone's aware of the
yeah.
the risks
interest rate
with
thing.
4, and the fact that it costs a little more, I'm okay with that.
All right, well, to get it to a discussion and a vote, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve option 4, which is to finance the entire truck upon delivery.
Second.
Okay, discussion? It's really
So we don't need to, under that option, to come up with
anything.
anything until fiscal year 17.
That's
Correct. Right.
Correct.
Which believe me, from what I'll report later, we're not gonna get any money from Amity for next year, so that's gonna.
That's true.
That's gonna hurt, so, somewhat, but, so, that would help in that regard. I just think in general, I always say that, but I think it's gonna be a difficult year. We got the Beecher project, we got the Public Works project coming on board, so.
That's true. You have the debt service for Public Works coming on board, so that's a couple $100,000.
And that starts next year?
Yeah.
They both hit.
Yeah. There's interest this year, and then next year you have your first principal payment.
So the 100,000 that we have in the budget then for this year and next year
Well,
for this?
yeah, next year in the current year, and then next year, you would have to decide what to put in. When I say this year, I mean, right, it was effective this July 1.
Right, right.
Honestly, it's a minimal difference between 2 and 4. Just the time.
If you decide, if you decide to go with 4, at any point,
Yeah, you could
you could
actually.
always do
You
it.
could always switch back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the chassis won't be done for
Yeah.
probably 6
So
months.
that's a good-
So you can always stick with 4. If you decide you
Yeah,
want
if
to go
something
back.
happens, you
So
could let us
see
know.
why it's going up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could let us know, and we could go back and
Could.
change it.
Yeah.
So that makes it even more. Okay, I'm gonna follow
That makes
this.
sense.
All those in favor of option 4? Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Great.
good.
Thank you.
Fire department will be happy. Okay. Next, funding requests. We have a couple here. One is, it's a line item transfer for police overtime. And basically what we're doing is we're funding it with private duty monies.
Correct,
So-
that we've had in
so the
excess
im-
of budget.
Right, so
Right.
the impact is nothing. So I'll make a motion that we approve line item transfer 1314-33 in the amount of $22,100.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next is a line item transfer. This has to do with the playground on the Alleghi property.
Right.
So let's get it on the table, because I think we need to get some information on this. I'll make a motion that we approve line item transfer 1415-03 in the amount of $29,400.
Second,
Okay, Tom,
So,
there's a little history.
yeah.
a little history on this. The playground was, there was a playground committee, as you are probably aware, and they've done some fundraising and were able to, had designed this playground for the Alleghi property. And we had received a state grant for that, which is $200,000. And then there's also a grant from the Playground Manufacturing Company that which is for this fiscal year. And it's set to expire in 14. It was actually from 2 years ago, and then they extended it, and they extended it another year. And so the location had changed on the Alleghi property to a different spot, and so there were some challenges with the site work. And so if you remember correctly, originally we funded about $13,000 roughly. The total was 15, but it was 13 of town money for some fill to help with that. It proved to not be enough fill, and there were some other drainage issues that were discovered with the site. I guess has a high water table. So this money is to complete the site work for the property and necessary for the installation of a playground. We would like to do this fall to not risk losing one of our grants that we received for the playground. I think in hindsight, if we were to do this again, we could have probably structured it differently. But
I think the lesson to be learned here is where the town has got to step in to fund something that was supposedly going to be privately funded.
right,
We need to be in control of these.
Right.
We can't allow other people to propose these things, and then when the monies come short, they come running to us because it's not the way it's supposed to work. So I don't think
So
we
What
have
do
it.
we put in place? I mean, this happens with almost every project of
Yeah.
this type.
yeah. So it was well intentioned. It just
Yes, it was very well intentioned.
And honestly, I mean, I'm not telling you how to vote, but it's really we have to vote for it, or else we're going to lose these grants.
Right.
And, they're in the middle. This thing is they're in the middle of
of
doing
the
it.
project. We got some of the
And
equipment.
as I
already.
understand it, they were looking for even more than this, and
Right.
that somebody stepped in and came up with a better price.
We did. Yeah, correct. That's correct. Yeah.
But when I had heard about it, I said, we can't do this. We can't. I guess there are two residents in town who spearheaded this. They did a great job. They raised a lot of money,
Yep.
but they didn't know all the nuances of.
And we were there were just some issues with the site and who
Yeah.
was responsible for the site, and I just so that's how we are.
So I guess what I'd like to understand, is it really possible to structure these types of projects differently in the future so that we know what all the risks are up front?
Well, have we ever had a project this where it was privately run
No.
and we weren't?
This is the first time.
This is the first one like this where, I'm sure there's been projects that we've been involved with from the start where it goes over budget.
It was a public-private
But this was, we were kind of not even, we were just, here's how much we need, and how much we're gonna
Right.
raise, and blah, 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 blah,
Right.
blah.
Right.
And then all of a sudden,
Right.
we can't do this, we don't
So
have
I'm
enough
going to throw
money.
this out for the 90-foot diamond, okay? If they
I-
raise $250,000.
That's exactly what I said, Sandy, and I knew you'd bring this up.
What do we put in place
Right.
so that the risks are laid out in the beginning?
Right. It's definitely something we would
And that's something, honestly, that's something I don't know if we need to be brought up to speed on that, or the Board of Selectmen. That thing's been out there forever, and I haven't heard a thing about any progress in raising money. It's supposed to raise $500,000,
It's okay, I'm just
Yeah.
saying it's an example of
Yeah.
another partnership
That's
that
exactly what I
could
said
come
to
up
Tony.
in
Yeah.
the future. And the issue is, how do we minimize the risk to the town?
Yeah.
And not, again, that it's not a worthwhile project and we don't want to see it finished. But there is a risk to the town.
I think what we need to, I don't know if it's something that's gotta go into a policy or whatever, but we need to see detailed plans that they've, obviously, if the playground people had gone out to an engineering, obviously they were trying to save money, you know, will this piece of property work or it won't work? And they would have been said, oh no, you got drainage issues, you got this. They didn't do that. They, oh, it's a piece of land, we'll plop it on there, you
So
know.
wet.
The miscommunication was who was actually responsible for the site work at the property.
Yeah.
That was where the miscommunication came in.
So did the playground people come and seek approval from the board of selectmen?
Yes.
Okay.
It was approved.
Yeah.
And like I said, I mean, Tony had called me on this. My initial reaction was not good, but he said, just understand, if we don't approve this, you know, these, and let's be honest, it's for kids, so. But what bothers me
The
more than that
process,
is
yeah.
exactly the
Right.
process. And I knew Sandy, I said to Tony, Sandy
Yeah.
will bring that up, because if you remember, she insisted that item come out of the 5-year plan and I agreed with you. So I said, it's just, we can't allow this to happen again. I mean, again, this is a worthwhile project for the kids in the town, and so I'm in
But
favor of it
the
for that
basics,
reason.
Like, who is responsible?
Right.
Because that has, anybody could put up something, but it's the upkeep, it's all.
Right, it's all the town.
Yeah,
It really
and
is the
it's
town.
all the expenses and upkeep after putting it in. That's an issue. And like you said, with the baseball diamond, if these expenses are on a little playground,
Right.
the chances of it being far greater is.
I mean, so what concerns me is that we're almost halfway through our contingency, it's only September.
Yeah. Well, this isn't contingency.
It's not contingency.
This is not,
No.
this is,
It's coming out of some reserve funds he's got.
Right.
You know, Tony.
Oh, okay.
Tony's always got money squirreled away, Sandy.
sorry.
You know Tony.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we don't have any.
No,
It's not
obviously,
contingency.
obviously, the
Okay.
issue is if a group of citizens come in and they want to build a, I don't know, whatever,
It's on town-
a skate park
it's
on town property,
That's
we have to run the show.
Right.
You give us your
Right,
budget,
that's
and you've
actually
got to raise the
great.
money, but
Yeah.
until we are satisfied that you're going to have enough money to do this,
Right.
we're not getting involved.
Right.
So that's the issue. And I think, you know, this is a very inexpensive way of learning a lesson on this, but we can't allow private citizens to get involved. Like I said, they did a great job. They raised a lot of money, they got a lot of grants.
A lot
So
of
this-
tireless effort.
And yeah, and so we certainly can't say to them, no, we're not doing this, because then we lose.
Right.
It would be a complete mess. So, but I think the future, we need to have a policy in place.
Yeah, so
Okay.
at some point, the oversight has to transfer to us.
Correct.
Probably at the time we approve it.
Correct. The minute they come forward with the idea.
Right.
Right.
We have to be
Yeah.
That's our.
completely in the loop.
Yes.
Not in the loop, we have to be in control. So, okay, anything else? All right, all those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Next is vote to approve funding for gas conversion for the firehouse, which of course was approved at a town meeting. Let's see. Yeah, so Sandy, just to get, our contingency is,
For this year, it's still 200,000. We haven't
Yeah.
used
Right,
any
we
yet.
haven't used any
I'm so
yet.
sorry about that.
And that's okay. Okay, hold on a second. Okay. All right, let's see. So this is $83,065.
Right.
Okay. So I will make a motion to approve funding for the natural gas conversion at the firehouse in the amount of $83,065 as approved at the special town meeting for the town of Woodbridge
Second?
on September 10th. Okay, second. Any questions, comments? All those in favor? Aye? Okay. When will that start, Tony?
It should be mid-October.
And that, so there'll be, the heating season will be?
Yes. Yes. It'll be done hopefully by the end of October.
And was the floor issue ever resolved?
I think they said it was.
The flooring?
Yes.
The firehouse. I think they
Yes.
said it was.
Yes, that's been resolved.
Okay.
Okay, we have the minutes of July 17th and July 31st. I will move acceptance of the minutes of July 17th, which was a regular Board of Finance meeting as presented.
Second?
Any discussion or corrections? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained?
Abstain.
Abstain.
Okay. And next was the joint, the joint meeting of the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen on July 31st for purposes of, our purposes of calling the town meeting for the gas conversion. I'll move acceptance of the minutes of July 31st as presented.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. And that's that. Liaison reports. Okay. Amity. Well, okay, take me a few minutes, but at the August meeting of the Amity Finance Committee, there was a lengthy discussion of, I'll tell you what the item was on the agenda. Discussion and possible action of recommended uses of the 2013-2014 year-end available funds. Now, I've always been, some people in Orange have really criticized Amity for having surpluses and it's just ridiculous, and I've always defended Amity because we've been made aware of these surpluses as the year went on, and the board always spent the money wisely on projects and returned a significant amount of money to the towns. Well, at the August meeting, they had probably 800,000, and I was very disturbed because the number kind of grew while we were not there. So they proposed a number of items. One is to convert natural gas at the Orange Middle School. One was to do a study for a fuel cell waste heat use of 57,000. The natural gas was 55,000. An asphalt sealing and crack repair we knew about of 25,000. And then the big item was to put money into their self-insurance reserve fund. They had a bad year, and they wanted to put money in there because they felt they were low, and they were low, and they wanted to transfer. The number is all over the place, but probably over $600,000 of the surplus into that. So there was a great deal of discussion, and I was very adamantly opposed to what they were doing, and because, for example, there is one of the items I didn't tell you about. It was they just determined that the high school cooling tower, which has something to do with the air conditioning, needed to be refurbished for $86,000. That was never presented to us. It was never approved by the facilities committee. We knew nothing about it. It just came up, and I said, "Gee, it's late August, September. How much more cooling do you have to worry about? Why don't we worry about this next year and not do that?" The gas conversion at the junior high school was 56,000. But they don't even know if they can get the gas there. So I said, why are we proving money for that when you don't even know if you can get gas? Mm-hmm. And I was very much opposed to putting all that money into the health insurance reserve because they had a bad year and were told that generally you have one bad year every 5 years. I said, so you're probably going to make some of that money up next year. Put some of it. Well, to make a long story short, I was looking for them to take. Of the $800,000 or $900,000 they wanted to use, I was looking for them to give back $300,000 to the towns, which is consistent with what they've done in the past, and was absolutely shot down, so to speak. So they spent it all, which was very disturbing to me because it brings back bad memories of the way things used to be at Beecher and at Amity. And so the next day, I began an email back and forth with Jamie Sterling, who's the who's the chairman of the finance committee, and I basically told him that I'm very upset. I said, and I know the town of Woodbridge is going to be upset. I know Tony's going to be upset because it's $100,000 he's not going to have that he was planning on. I said, and you had this huge surplus, which you know people complain, and I've been as their biggest defender because it's always been well explained, and all of a sudden this thing, where'd all this money come from? You know, we left here in May or whatever, and it was 400 or 500. Now it's close to 900. And he said, well, and I said to him, I said, look, I'm going to stop supporting all you guys on this stuff. I'm going to start being a watchdog of this, and I'm going to start complaining about the way you use this money. It's just not right. You put all this money into this health, and now they've got like $1 million in this health insurance fund, which makes them very comfortable. It makes Jack very comfortable, Jack Levine. I said, but I don't think you need to do that in one fell swoop. I said, you can build that up in time. So Jamie asked me if it would be okay to share my emails, our emails back and forth with Bill Blake, the chairman of the Amity board, and with Superintendent Dumais. And I said, absolutely. And it got a lot of reaction because they don't like to anger Woodbridge. They realize that Woodbridge is a big supporter. And I told them, I said, I think, you know, I know the superintendent was his first shot at this thing. But I told him, I said, you know, you should have checked to see that, you know, in the past, you return money to the towns. I said, you had the largest surplus ever. I said, and you used it all. I said, it's just not. I said, remember, this is overtaxation. Plain and simple. It's overtaxation, and to not give any of it back to the towns, I said, is not the way I would have done things. I said, so, I said, and you've lost me as far as a big proponent of the way you do things because you didn't do them the way you've done them in the past. I said, so I'm going to keep watching this, and I said, I'm going to keep complaining. So here we go, and we meet in September. I just got to find you. And they're already, as of August 31st, they already have a $54,000 surplus. And they're going to return a little bit of money. They found $62,000 of funds that they didn't spend.
That's total, not per town?
Yeah, no. So we're going to get 18,000 of that. But, and I also, Chip sent out an email. He wants to start talking now about the surplus, but I just want to give you a quick the current state of the medical plan.
You know,
So just so you know, the medical plan for the first 2 months of the year has a surplus of $120,000. So as I said, I said, you guys, you had a bad year, and there were 2 very, very big cases, both of which are over now, which impacted it. I said, you're probably not going to have another bad year. I said, so why do you need to have this tremendous amount of money in this thing? So for the month, now, July and August are usually big months because teachers who are they take care of all their medical issues over the summer, and they spend $300. The budget is $365 a month. They spend $311 in July and $336 in August, and then the fees and lost premiums and all that. There was also a surplus of $35. So it's $120,000 surplus in 2 months. So now if this continues, let's say it's a $30,000 surplus for they're going to have fortunes available in this thing. So if they don't, unfortunately, Jack was of the opinion they should put all this money in there, and they did. So
that seems like a big turnaround from when the presentation was given to us. Obviously, the surplus was much lower at that point, but even at that point, they weren't considering doing this.
No.
So, what has happened here? That's my concern, is that it's a total shift in terms of perspective. Where is this coming from? Is it from particular individuals on the board? Is it from the superintendent? Is it from Jack? What?
Combination of all. Dr. Brady was very sensitive. He finally realized that you've got to balance things. You just can't. They in the past spent money on. I'm not saying they frittered this money away.
No.
But it was almost as if they came up with things to get rid of the money, like that $97,000 or $87,000 for that cooling tower. Where'd that come from? I was sitting here, where did that? We never heard anything about. Oh well, we just determined that. Oh come on, I said, 87 and 50. Oh, so the 56, the only one they didn't vote for, at the board meeting was the $56,000 for the conversion of the gas and orange, but they took that and put it in the medical fund.
Yeah.
So it was and I was sitting there, we were,
I mean,
you know.
this is such a departure.
Yes,
This is
and
really what
it was
is
the first time I
concerning
voted
me.
against everything. I voted against every single one of these, and I said, and none of them passed. There was only 4 of us there, but it was 2. Jamie Sterling also didn't vote for it. So they all went 2 for 2, 2 for, 2 against, so none of them passed. But I'm sitting here saying, it doesn't matter, because I know the Board of Education, they're gonna just go with it. And there are some interesting personalities on the board, but from what I heard, it went through almost unanimously on all these, and they didn't want to hear about it.
I remember them bringing that up during their presentation, that they had this shortfall in their account and that they were contemplating using that money.
Yeah.
But I also thought we were given assurances that we would be included in the conversation and our voice heard and recognized, and it doesn't seem like that happened.
I mean, I guess what I'd like to suggest, Matt, is that you and Ellen meet with the superintendent.
Mhm.
And I think he needs to understand what a departure this is.
Oh, yeah, he does.
But I think personally,
Yeah.
I mean, he's heard it,
Yeah.
he's seen the emails, but I think it's a face-to-face conversation. I mean, it's right across the street,
Yep.
and that would be,
I'll talk to Ellen, yeah.
okay.
But don't we have the chance so in the next budget cycle, right, there shouldn't really be, if this surplus continues, there really shouldn't be any money contributed by us for the
health insurance.
for the health insurance,
No, I gotta-
right? That should be.
Everything they were told by the experts on the health insurance was that last year was an anomaly, and that they should get back to normal. Of course, because of it, they upped the monthly budget. So
Right.
now, like I said, in 2 months, 120,000 in months that should be
Higher.
bad.
Yeah.
So I sat there and said, okay, guys, I said, see what I'm talking about? I said, yeah, it's 120,000 already now that you have, plus you have a $54,000 surplus. I said, you've lost me. I'm telling you right now. I said this at the September meeting. I said, you've lost me. I said, and now I'm going to be a thorn in your side, because I'm going to be watching this. I always trusted you. I still trust you. I do trust you. I said, but I'm going to be watching this surplus, and I'm going to be watching this health
So
insurance.
there's about
fund.
$1 million in this account.
Oh, it's loaded now.
And the surplus continues.
It's loaded now.
So another question is, Matt, how transparent are they about where the surplus came from? What did they either over budget?
They did.
We're safe. Or
Yes.
right. We're safe.
Yeah.
They did. Yeah. They did give. We were aware of, but yeah, at the end of the year, we didn't. The special ed this and the transportation this, and their biggest fear is if their budget is short, they have to come to the 3 towns for funding, and they don't want to do that. And I don't blame them.
I understand.
And I've always said that. I said, on a $44 million budget, if you have a $500,000 or $600,000 surplus, and month after month after month, we're aware of where it comes from. They're very good about saying where it comes from.
Okay.
And I've got a thing here about cost efficiencies and things they've done, and et cetera, et cetera. But it just jumped, and which is okay, right? Here's the reasons, but what bothered me is that they couldn't see fit to return any of the money to the town. That's
Yeah, that
dangerous,
is-
because that's the old days, and
Yeah.
I think the
How many cycles
superintendent.
do we have to sit through this?
Yeah, and I think the
Yes.
superintendent,
Oh my
he
gosh.
understood based on the emails I was firing off to Jane, and I told him, I said, and I know, I think
Yep.
you talked to somebody.
I did.
About that you were not happy.
Yeah, the superintendent called me.
Right.
Yeah.
Superintendent.
Okay.
No, we got their attention, believe me. Because I told them in the email, I said, I'm going to report this. I predicted. I said, I'm going to report this to the Amity Board, Woodbridge Board of Finance. I said, and I can tell you, they're not going to be happy. They're not going to be happy with what I'm going to report. I said, so now you're on notice that I'm going to be watching this very closely, and every month that health insurance plan is below the budget, I'm going to say I told you so, because I heard from when the medical experts were telling us about this plan, and they said, it's just a bad year, but you should experience it. And they knew 2 particular cases which
Right,
ate
that
this
cost
thing
them a lot of
alive.
money.
2 big cancer cases, I guess.
And that
Right.
can happen.
And one of them I know for a fact, it was in the newspaper. It happened to be the hockey coach, so there was this big article about how he was cured and he's free of cancer and blah, blah, blah. Chances are you're not going to get these again. So, but This is Jack, and don't worry, Jack's a terrific guy, and he's an excellent fight, but he's extremely conservative, extremely, doesn't want to, and they listen to him, obviously. And it was just, so all I was trying to do is, well, okay, look, how are we going to do the 300,000? All right, forget the 56,000 for the natural gas. That's not happening. Forget the 87,000 for that tower. That's 100. And then take, instead of transferring 550,000, transfer 400,000,
Right.
and that gives you 300,000 to return to the towns and show good faith. Like it was like I wasn't even
Sounds like a
there.
good plan.
Yeah, like I wasn't even there. So. But like I said, since then I got an email from Chip on Sunday. He wrote this. He wants to have a discussion about moving forward with this. And so I answered him, and I basically said the same thing. I said, surpluses are a result of overtaxation. Don't get me wrong, as long as you can explain where it came from, but we gave you the money based on what you told us you were in a need. I said, and you didn't need it, so you got to think about returning some of the money. So his first venture into the surplus was not a successful one as far as I'm concerned, and he knows it. So, but believe me, I will keep on top of this, and I will be saying "I told you so" more than once.
Well, thank you for representing us.
Yes, I was very upset.
I can imagine.
As you know, we've been through this.
imagine.
It
Oh
takes
my God.
years to repair
Yes.
the credibility.
Years ago,
Years
years ago, Beecher would.
Oh my God.
Before Guy Stella, in the May or June meeting, they would go on spending sprees. I know one year they spent $150,000. They just decided to change all the locks of the school for no reason other than to spend the surplus and not give it back. We would have meetings where the finance director couldn't tell us what their. This was when Diane was here.
Right.
Couldn't tell us what their special ed costs were going to be. I said, "It's May. You mean to tell me you can't project?" And it was awful. And Amity was even, as you know, Amity was even worse.
Oh, yes.
But it took Guy years
We had
to repair that.
with John Brady and Guy Stella, we had no problems. And like I said, it was there. We saw the number, and the only thing that bothered me was that they chose not to.
Mhm.
And I think you discussed all of this in the budget hearing.
Yes,
stuff.
yes.
And that we didn't want to go backwards like that. in the-
So now I'll report that I was right about the Board of Finance. They're not happy with what happened. So, okay. Mike.
The fire commission met on September 8th, and I was not unfortunately able to make it.
Okay. Karen.
EMS didn't meet, but big happenings at Human Services. There is a fall prevention program being organized with several different speakers, and this is something EMS has been working on. They've been very impressive. They go through all the data of all the ambulance calls, and it's an astounding number of falls that happen here, and that, incredible. So there's a lot of falls around here. So they've been trying to be really proactive about that. Dr. Davidson has done so much research and put together pamphlets, and AMR has offered to do home visits free of charge to do kind of risk management for people. And Human Services has joined with them, so they're putting together a fall prevention program. There's also a Tai Chi program sponsored by the VNA, which has been widely popular. So there's already 2 programs, and that's 12 classes for $10.
Wow.
So it's amazing. There's a waiting list too. And then, with collaboration with the rec department, there's going to be a hula hoop class from October 2nd through November 13th. The bus situation, I lost my notes, but I think I could do it from memory. The bus funding that we approved, that lease, that has to go through UPRO. Now, the 2008 bus is being registered, but apparently the registration process is quite extensive, and there's several inspections. So I think they're hopeful, but Mary Ellen is checking with other departments, and it's even though we know it's very well maintained, it is a process, but they're moving through on that. And in October, November, the agreements should be ready to be mailed to the first selectman. The procurement event to order a bus will take place February, March, and the new bus will be received sometime in July, September 2015. And they are actively working on the senior holiday fair too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything, David?
Yeah, there was a special meeting last night which I couldn't attend, but the major concern for the Rec Commission is the condition of the fields, as some of you may have heard, because of the non-pesticide, the non-use of pesticides. A number of them have really deteriorated, so that the grass is not stable, and some kids have gotten their cleats stuck and fallen down. So the commission did a walk over of all the fields last night, and then met, and they're going to be recommending to the Board of Selectmen what to do about that. One of the options is closing off the fields for the remaining of the growing season and returning to the use of the traditional pesticides and fertilizer. And then there'll be a regular commission meeting on Monday.
Okay, thank you.
So the grass is not stable, is that it?
It's the
It's
grubs are
grub
eating
damage.
it from underneath,
Oh,
Right.
oh, okay.
and the root system is being destroyed.
Destroyed,
Yep.
okay.
So in other words,
That's
the
a
stuff
big
they
deal.
And
used,
the,
stuff they used that didn't work.
Right.
And then the skunks, like a rodent.
Skunks go
it's like
after
a
the-
rodent
Skunks go
kill.
after the grubs.
Oh,
Go
really?
after the grubs, they dig into the
Oh, my gosh.
Also moles.
moles,
Yeah.
skunks, crows.
Then you end up with,
Yeah.
It's a feast
Oh,
for
my gosh.
That'll be on your ankles
no,
too.
Yeah, right,
Wow.
right.
okay.
Okay.
Do we have any regulations regarding the application of pesticides on our town property
There's a policy,
policy?
yeah, that the selectmen adopted
Okay.
of non-use of pesticide unless there's an emergency, certain things are exempt. The country club and roadside spraying, I think, are the two exemptions.
So that may need to be relooked at.
Yeah.
Right, right.
All right. Okay, the Library Commission met on Monday, September 8th, and the biggest news is that our librarian, Todd Fabian, is leaving. And he's been with us for 5 years. I feel that he has done just an outstanding job.
Yes.
He is a true leader.
I agree.
He's very creative. He has excellent relationship
great
with
job.
his staff.
Yeah.
And he has just created the library as kind of the center of the community in terms of outreach. So it's a big loss for us. He's going to Concord, New Hampshire. It's a town of about 50,000 people, so it's bigger than Woodbridge. And so it offers some growth opportunities for him as well. There is a search committee that's been established, and I believe by this point in time the ad has been
Yep.
placed.
Yep.
And there is a search committee established. And they feel that there will be a very good response to the opening, and hopefully we will not have to wait too long to fill that position. Lynn Sarah is going to be the interim, and she will, I'm sure, will continue.
When's he leaving?
Next week,
Oh.
the 23rd.
23rd, yeah.
Yeah, next Tuesday. Next Tuesday.
He was
yeah.
excellent.
And,
agree.
So we will really miss him. He has made a huge contribution, I think, to the town.
So he wasn't dissatisfied, he just had a...
No, he's
No,
Yeah.
just personal life situation
Yeah,
and
right.
ready for growth
That's
and
quite
new
a move.
opportunities.
Where's he going to?
Concord, New
Concord, New
Hampshire.
Hampshire.
That's a schlep.
Yeah. He said it's only 3 hours away, so
Yeah.
he doesn't feel like he's totally removed. But the good news is he was able to get the elevator fixed.
Oh, really?
So, yes.
What happened?
Which is a nice way to leave.
It's really a
So-
long story.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, but, people are very happy with it, and, it's a whole, maintenance service contract issue, and really who has the parts and all this kind of stuff, but it's done, and that's really good.
Just to shed some light on it.
Yeah.
When we lost Diane Waldron, we were all distraught that we'd never replace her, and look who we got.
That's true.
Right?
That's
So there's always somebody out there.
That's true. And the other thing that Todd said he is really pushing for with the town is to get a light fixture replaced on the side of the library
The light
towards the
pole?
towards the old firehouse, because
that's-
it's just very dark there, and as it starts getting darker earlier and earlier, that becomes a hazard.
I think that's in process, actually.
Okay. And actually, he had 2 recommendations, which was interesting in terms of the characteristics of a new director. And he said, make sure that the person embraces new technology, but that's very, very important as libraries continue to thrive. they won't thrive by using the old technologies that we have, and that they're willing to and have some creative ideas about outreach to the community, which I think Todd has
Good
done
idea, yeah.
an excellent job with on both accounts. All right, the Board of Education Finance Committee for Beecher met on that same evening, and it was on the night of the ice cream social. I will tell you, I have never seen so many cars at Beecher, ever.
Really?
And I think they had record attendance. I mean, they were parked everywhere. Every inch of grass was taken up, which is fabulous. I mean, it really shows that the school is the center. And they have had to add 3 new classrooms this year based on increased enrollment. And I think, what's happening is, some of our older residents are basically selling their homes, and many new families are coming in. And that's kind of the cycle that we're in at this point. And we know that we have one of the largest populations percentage-wise of people over 65 compared to other towns in Connecticut. And as that starts to shift, there are going to be more people with children who move into town. The school can accommodate it, and I think that it's just knowing in advance where the kids are going to come in and at what age. So that has gone absolutely very smoothly, and the renovation work has also gone very well. And we know that there'll be a little bit during the school year, and then it'll get finished again next summer. They did actually get a Homeland Security grant for $29,800 for upgrades that they're going to put into the construction project. It cannot replace funds that they had already allocated in construction, so they are going to complete the roller shades around the entire building. This is so that they can basically black out anyone looking in from the outside around the entire building. So they want to complete that project. There's a new wave of funding coming from Homeland Security, and they will apply for those funds as well. They still were able to serve 600 students this summer, even though they had to move into Amity and Ezra. So it's not as high as what they usually serve over the summertime, but they felt that it really went very well. There were increased expenses for renting those facilities. They did not come free. So the bottom line for the summer programs was a little different than it has been in the past. When we also look at the special revenue that comes in for extended day, the cafeteria, field trips, there is a deficit for extended day that we asked for a little more information about. The program as a whole is not in deficit, but it was $20,000. So we just want to have a little bit of oversight in terms of.
Is it like a timing issue? Or?
I think that Al was not sure, and so we just said we just like to understand. We're not changing anything. We're not telling them really what to do, but we feel there has to be some oversight of the programs themselves. So we will ask basically just for some additional information. There was a 5-year forecast that was requested by the Finance Committee, and the biggest issue with it is the enrollment projections. Because the demographer that they use has projected, decreased enrollment every year for 5 years, and all it's done is gone in the other direction. So what was suggested is that we don't build in the enrollment projections that the demographer is using. Even if they want to keep flat enrollment, that's fine.
That, yeah.
Right. And then come up with a fixed cost and a variable cost to try to take a look at what the projections are.
Right.
So Al's going to go back and do that and have that information for us. But, at this point, we're at 804 students. And, again, it's how the kids are distributed that determines when you need a new classroom. But the board made it clear to Dr. Stella that they want to keep within the enrollment guidelines that have been set, And if it means needing to have another classroom, they'd like to understand that and work with him in terms of what that looks like. So
Good.
anyway, but they're very healthy, and it's only through August that we got the numbers. So July and August are not necessarily predictive of the rest of the year.
Another thing I wanted to mention, unfortunately I forgot it. I believe in yesterday's New Haven Register, U.S. News and World Report ranked the high school. Is it
Yes.
500 high schools in the country?
Yeah.
It's a big number, yeah.
And Amity was the number one in the state of Connecticut. I think
Yes.
they
Right.
recognized Amity, Hand,
Mm-hmm.
Haddam, Killingworth, and Cheshire, I think. And Amity was the number one in,
Of Connecticut.
Of Connecticut. Yeah.
I think it was 140, it's in the register.
140 of the list.
Newsweek, Newsweek, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like 149th or something in the
Right.
country.
Right.
Right.
And, but that was the
Yes.
highest rating for the state of
Right.
Connecticut,
Yes.
so. Which is good news, I guess.
It's very good
Yeah,
news.
it's recognized.
That's good.
Very good.
Okay.
news.
You can do that.
We have to do the.
Oh, liaisons, yeah, I was just gonna say, does anybody want to change? Because, or do you just want to stay the way we are?
I'm okay staying with it.
Okay. Why don't we do this? Why don't we stay the way we are, and when everybody's here, it's hard to, I don't know when Andy comes back, And if anybody, for our next meeting, if anybody wants to change, bring it up then. But for now, stay where we are.
Is there anyone that wants to
Is there anybody that's
make a change?
looking to change?
So at least to put that on the table right now, that's all.
No?
Mike looks like he.
Come on, Mike, you love
Gee, I can't understand why.
But, yeah, I'm fine with
All
that.
right, leave it for now, okay. All right, thank you. A motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you, good meeting.
Thank you.